It's spooky season, which means it's the perfect time to talk about the troubling scenes in our favorite movies and the most horrifying images that haunt our dreams. Since everyone on YouTube is talking about horror movies around this time of the year, I thought I would do something a bit different. Instead of live action, today I will be talking to you about animated movies, and mostly anime, which are animated movies but made in Japan, but sometimes not in Japan. You know what anime is, I don't have to explain. So today, we're talking about the 10 most haunting, most terrifying animated movies ever made, in my humble opinion, of course. And they are not just terrifying because of what they visually portray, but also sometimes because of what they imply with their stories and metaphors. Without further ado, I present to you what I think are the best horror animated movies of all time. Number 10. Soul Station. The perfect way to kick off any list about horror movies is, of course, zombies. Soul Station is a prequel to the universally loved Korean film Train to Busan. Directed by the same guy, Young Sang-go, Soul Station follows on one hand a girl and a homeless man, and on the other hand the girl's father and her boyfriend, as they all try to survive a zombie apocalypse outbreak. The movie, while being a prequel, is not interested in explaining the origin of the virus that turns people into zombies, but instead it works as a separate adventure within the Train to Busan universe. It is bloody, suspenseful, and has an interesting commentary on the treatment of homeless people. Actually, the whole situation could have been prevented if homeless men were treated like human beings. It's got its own flaws, but the filmmaker here is clearly not focused on the zombies, and has a lot more to say about human nature as supported by the twist in the third act. It may not be on par with Train to Busan, but it is way better than Peninsula, so there is that. Number 9. Wicked City. Okay, before going any further, let me address the elephant in the room. Director Yoshiaki Kawajiri is a legend in the animation space, and his movies have impacted 90s anime in a big way. But there is no denying that he is probably solely responsible for the terrible reputation of mature anime throughout the 90s. He was of course accused of misogyny, and for good reasons. His movies always contained sexual assaults, and women were always weak and needed a male protagonist to come to the rescue. And don't even get me started on how much better drawn and animated his sexual assault scenes were compared to normal sex scenes. However, all of that is completely irrelevant in the context of this video. So if you would like a deep dive on Kawajiri and 90s anime as a separate video essay, let me know and I'll be glad to do it. Anyway, Wicked City follows a male human and a female demon who both work for an agency called Blackguard. In a world where demons and humans exist in two separate realms and maintain peace through a treaty they have to sign every decade, Taki and Mikey are assigned to protect Moyart, an old man who is responsible for the signing of the new treaty, while a group of rebellious demons try to stop the new treaty from being signed. This movie is beautifully animated with that amazing 80s cyberpunk feel and outstanding creature designs that would give you nightmares for days. Wicked City is also not Kawajiri's best work. However, if there is something the movie does not fail at, is to be both visually appealing and creepy. Number 8. The King of Pigs. After 15 years, two young men, Jung-suk and Kyo-min, reunite to talk about their high school past. And let's just say it brings out a lot of memories. The King of Pigs is more of a psychological thriller that leaves you speechless as soon as the end credits starts rolling. Its bleak and depressing tone, coupled with some really messed up scenes featuring bullying, animal abuse, and self-harm, will let you feeling down after watching it. The thing with this movie is that the director clearly has a problem with society in terms of social classes, distribution of wealth, and the overall financial problems that the average man faces on a daily basis, but it offers no solution and gives no hope to the viewer. It is almost as if the movie suggests that the only way to surpass evil is to become a monster, and the only way out of the endless loop of misery we call life is to jump off a roof, I guess. That on itself is terrifying to think about. Number 7, Akira. I know, another video talking about Akira. But in my defense, I'm not here to talk about the light trails, the beauty of Neo Tokyo, or Canada's cool outfit and his driving skills. No, because Akira is a lot more than that. It is a dystopian future where underneath the beautiful skyscrapers and infrastructures, you find dirt and gang violence and a lifestyle that seems hopeless. I know most consider Akira to be a sci-fi action adventure. However, I deeply believe it to be just as horrifying as any of the horror animated movies I've watched. There are lots of nightmarish imageries, body horror, and a cosmic horror finale. I mean, you can't watch the scene where Tetsuo's girlfriend pops like a water balloon and not have nightmares for days. When you add to that the scene of Tetsuo having a mental breakdown while trying to scoop up his guts accompanied by some of the creepiest sounds you will ever hear, Akira immediately qualifies as one of the most horrifying anime ever made. Especially considering that the movie went a lot further with the horror than the graphic novel ever did, which makes the movie even more special. But looking beyond body horror, Akira is also a cautionary tale. Like most sci-fi horror, Katsuhiro Otomo's masterpiece portrays a dystopian Tokyo society run by corrupt government and military officials, using human experimentation in an attempt to gain ultimate control over the risky supernatural powers that develop as a result. Some could even make some connection with the horror caused by the events of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Otomo is more or less being critical of the unrestrained use of technology and suggests that by nature, humans will tend to cross the boundaries of immorality in favor of what they think is progressive. Akira is not just science fiction. It's not just sci-fi horror. It's a psychological horror that is a lot scarier when you think about what it implies. Number 6, Ninja Scroll. Directed by Yoshiaki Kawajiri, Ninja Scroll follows a vagabond swordsman named Jubei, who, with the help of a female ninja named Kagero and an elderly government spy named Dokuan, battles the 8 devils of Kimon, a team of ninjas with supernatural powers who intend on overthrowing the government and take over Japan. Ninja Scroll is one of Kawajiri's best work and one of the most influential anime of the 90s. The animation is incredible and the action was ahead of its time. To this day, it still looks incredible despite coming out in 1993. Ninja Scroll is also one of the creepiest anime of all time. The character designs were carefully crafted to be visually unsettling. It's one of the rare times I felt unsettled, not by the extreme violence, but by the character designs that kept getting creepier and creepier as the movie went on. I just want to mention that out of all the monsters, creatures, and people's abilities being some of the craziest things you will ever see, I just love that our main protagonist in this is just a guy with a sword. No special ability, no special techniques, just pure badassness. Now that's cool. Number 5, Paprika. Just like Akira, Paprika in its core is not meant to be a straight-up horror movie. However, with it being a psychological thriller, it is only normal that it contains elements of horror visually and metaphorically. Paprika is about a young woman named Shiba, a scientist by day and a dream detective at night under the codename Paprika. When a machine that allows therapists to enter their patient's dream is stolen, all hell breaks loose. Only Paprika can stop it. Like most of Satoshi Kon's work, Paprika is a fine work of art that uses the concept of dreams to create some of the weirdest, freakiest action sequences you will ever see. Paprika is one of the most influential animated movies ever made. And I don't care what Christopher Nolan has to say, he clearly took inspiration from Paprika when making Inception. You did that, Nolan. Admit it. Paprika is also Satoshi Kon's last movie before his tragic passing. And that's always been heartbreaking because I feel like the man had so much more to offer. But what comforts me is knowing that his last offering was this trippy, weird, and freaky masterpiece. Number 4. Memories. Memories is a compilation of 3 short films: Magnetic Rose, Stink Bomb, and Cannon Fodder. Magnetic Rose, the best shot out of the 3, was written by Satoshi Kon, based on the story by Katsuhiro Otomo, and directed by Koji Morimoto. Stink Bomb was directed by Tensai Okamura and written by Katsuhiro Otomo. Cannon Fodder was written and directed by Katsuhiro Otomo. They are all sci-fi horror animated films, with Stink Bomb being more on the comedic side and more of a horror comedy. In the chilling Magnetic Rose, engineers on a spacecraft board an abandoned space station and encounter disturbing paranormal forces. In Stink Bomb, a young lab worker accidentally swallows a chemical weapon and unknowingly becomes a walking toxic gas, killing everyone he gets close to. In Cannon Fodder, a young boy and his family fight for survival in a world filled with war and exploitation. What I love the most about these 3 short films is how distinct they feel from each other, from the art style to the tone to the basic premise of each film. However, what they all have in common is that they do not use shocking imageries to terrify the audience. The horror here lies more in what each of these films imply. They are all fascinated by human trauma, exploitation, and paranoia. How each of these elements can ultimately lead to the demise of the human race. Number 3. Vampire Hunter D. Okay, I had to include 2 movies in one spot as an excuse to extensively talk about what I think is one of the most fascinating protagonists in all anime. Based on the novel of the same name by Japanese author Hideyuki Kikuchi, Vampire Hunter D received 2 anime adaptations. First, there was Vampire Hunter D in 1985, directed by Toyo Ashida. Then came Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust in 2000, directed by legendary director Yoshiaki Kawajiri. The story takes place in a distant future where vampires rule the world. To protect the regular humans from those bloodthirsty creatures, they have vampire hunters. But you see, D is not just any vampire hunter. He's half human, half vampire, also known as a Dhampir. So in other words, he's like Blade, but way cooler. Does Blade have a talking hand that can swallow spirits? Does he have eternal youth? An incredibly big sword, superhuman strength, and a cyborg horse? I didn't think so. But really, the beauty of both of these movies is that they know how to stay consistent in their tones in a way that feels both adventurous and creepy at the same time. The 1985 movie follows D as he is hired by a young lady to hunt down a vampire royalty who is trying to force her to be his bride. The somber atmosphere of this movie and the undeniable charisma of the main protagonist will keep your eyes glued to the screen. In Bloodlust, D is hired by a rich family to hunt down a vampire who had kidnapped their daughter. Along the way, we discover that the vampire and the lady are actually in love and are trying to run away together. So the movie turns into this romantic tragedy with 2 lovers who are not allowed to be together because the differences between their worlds won't allow it, which is a perfect scenario for the development of the character of D, who thinks he needs to prevent this vampire from putting a baby in this human because, as someone who has spent his entire life being despised by both worlds, he doesn't want it to happen to anyone else. Through incredible world building, terrifying monsters, and outstanding action scenes, we get an unforgettable horror anime with heart and passion. Bloodlust is one of the rare times where the sequel of an anime actually surpasses the original in almost every possible way. The animation alone is out of this world, with some beautifully disturbing shots and some images that look like they belong in a museum. I love both of these movies so much. They have everything: haunting visuals, captivating action, and a protagonist that looks like a rock star. What more can you ask for? Number 2. Belladonna of Sadness. Belladonna of Sadness is a profoundly unsettling yet captivating experience that stayed with me for a while after watching it. The movie is a Japanese animated film directed by Eiichi Yamamoto. However, the story takes place in medieval France, and it follows the story of Jeanne, a peasant woman who makes a deal with the devil after being sexually abused by the local lord on the night of her wedding day. What follows is a series of trippy sequences with some of the most inventive animation I've ever seen. In a mesmerizing blend of abstract, watercolor psychedelic visuals, the film delves into the harrowing story of Jeanne as she slowly gives up her soul to the devil. The movie is as ambitious as it is horrifying, evoking a sense of simultaneous repulsion and fascination. Upon its release, Belladonna of Sadness was a commercial failure and played a significant role in the bankruptcy of Mushi Pro, its production studio, in late 1973. Nevertheless, over time, the movie has garnered a cult following, aided by its restoration and re-release in 2016. The movie is also not very popular among women, who consider the film to be a poor display of a female sexual liberation. Some may even consider the movie to be straight up sexist, but again, that's not the point of this video. Belladonna of Sadness does not shy away from the discomfort its subject matter may cause. It is undoubtedly a film that seeks to shock, yet it is also adorned with breathtaking imagery. Despite the fact that it heavily leans into its explicit and erotic content, it is not designed to arouse. Rather than inciting arousal, it evokes anxiety, yet its undeniable beauty remains unparalleled. A truly fascinating work of art. Number 1. Perfect Blue. I present to you my favorite animated movie of all time and one of my favorite movies ever. Satoshi Kon's Perfect Blue is a masterpiece. It's not so common to watch a movie that executes all of the director's ideas so flawlessly. The story is about a pop singer who gives up her career to become an actress, but she slowly goes insane when she starts being stalked by an obsessed fan and what seems to be a ghost of her past. Perfect Blue is a terrifying work of art, with very deep themes such as obsession. The movie is also so perfectly animated and structured that at times it feels like watching a live-action film. No wonder some of its scenes found their way in some movies like Requiem for a Dream or Black Swan. The movie also contains some incredible twists, and all of its story choices made sense thematically and stylistically. I also just love how it executes both its horror and mystery elements. It's never over the top or excessive. It's got the right amount of gore, the right amount of scares, and the right amount of suspense and mystery. This is as close to a perfect movie as a director can get. And with this movie, Satoshi Kon just proved that he was indeed one of the best to ever do it. Bastard! That's it. There you have it. My top 10 for the scariest animated movies ever made. I know when it comes to lists, people tend to disagree. That's why I always say, please share your own top 10 in the comments below. It would definitely give me a different perspective, and that would be cool. Anyway, this was very fun to make. I always love doing these top 10 videos. I have one more video coming out during spooky season, so look out for that. Well, that's it. Until next time, ciao.